We often hear about the ways men are shirking their duty as fathers, but are Black dads actually doing more? We'll talk about it next on Black Issues Forum.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Hello everyone, I'm Deborah Holt-Noel. Welcome to Black Issues Forum. About 50% of the children in the United States live in a home without a dad. In Black households, statistics say up to 80% of kids grow up living with one parent, and usually that's mom. We often hear stories about how Black dads are not living up to their responsibilities. The question is, why? Today we'll meet two guests who are working to help fathers become more involved in their kids' lives. We'll meet them in a moment, but first, production intern Eric Barstow brings us this report about an organization that's working to help dads be real dads.
Proactive, involved, dependable. Not terms typically used to describe deadbeat dads, but Fathers Forever, a program based in Raleigh, is redefining the dads in that category.
It didn't take you overnight to get here. It's not going to take you overnight to get out. But if you stay with us, we're going to try to help you get out.
I'll admit, we've made some bad decisions, but we're not bad people.
The Fathers Forever program is dedicated to improving the image these men have in society, as well as how they define themselves, more as leaders, providers, and role models, so that they can be the fathers their children need. There are also terms that now describe the program's founder, Glen Warren. The nonprofit organization was very much a product of Warren's own life as a single dad.
I'm a single father, and I knew the struggle of trying to raise kids. You know, I had 3 kids, and trying to raise them as a single father. And single mom's been doing it for a long time, so single father just kind of stepping up to the plate. So we're not necessarily patting ourselves on the back for that, but, you know, and realizing that it's tough. But at the same time, I also work in a system where I've seen a lot of guys that come across my desk to come to my office, and the absence of fathers is one of the devastating part of our society. Most women, most moms kind of want you to be involved in their kids' life, most of them. These men are behind in child support and at risk or have been in jail for non-child support, and they are court ordered from the court system. We also work with Wake County child support enforcement. They make referrals too, but most of these guys our guys are behind in their child support and at risk of going to jail. So we serve as an alternative for them going to jail.
When men attend for the first time, they're often reluctant to engage, but that quickly changes.
A lot of times they're angry and they're frustrated and they don't want to be here. So we take that and we try to turn it around and work with the community. So the judge make them come, and now we want to, what I call synergy, that the community starts to give us some things that we can help them better in their lives.
Dad offenders have the option of taking the 24-week-long curriculum that Warren offers. It's a series that offers classes like job readiness training, parenting, anger management, substance abuse, and a special course, destiny development. That translates to 6 months of parent training. The cost to process one student is $1,200, but that entire cost is covered by Fathers Forever.
I was always told that the choices in life can make you or break you. And I feel like the choices that Glen and them have gave me now as an opportunity in life, those are taking, instead of taking the low road, I'm taking the high road. So that makes me feel a lot better.
We try to help them find jobs. We're working on now with JobLink and a couple other agencies that we're trying to get these guys, because a lot of our guys have criminal records. So we're trying to work with different parts of community to help these guys get employment, and we require them to do certain things.
I made some big moves, some transitions. I got to meet with an attorney, and he helped me out a little bit, get my license back. I explained to the attorney that I was in the Working for Kids in the Forever Fathers program, and he said since I am trying to help myself, he don't mind helping me.
When we come together as a group, and people see what we're doing, you're going to create some leverage, and we could take that leverage, and I can go and say, John Doe needs to do something. He needs to get his license, or he needs to do something. And they can look at that and say, you know what, we're going to help him out.
This program has given me the confidence that I feel that I need to take on everyday task of going out here and applying for jobs. Because after you hear so many no's, you kind of get discouraged. But this program is installing confidence in us, letting us know, if one door closes, just go beat another door down.
The people here want to see me succeed. They want to see me be successful. They want to see me change my life around and do better in my life. And by them supporting me, I think that also makes me want to push forward to be successful.
Be there for your child. That's the most important and valuable lesson that you can have, is just be there. You don't have to have all the money in the world to be a parent, because that's not what makes a parent. It's what's inside of here, your heart, the love that you have for that child.
And that's the Fathers Forever program. Here to talk with us more about the program and about African American fathers is Glen Warren, founder of Fathers Forever. We also have Vincent Rozier, a Wake County District Court judge. I'm sorry, that's Vince Rozier. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Common mistake.
Welcome to the program, both of you. It was really interesting just hearing from the fathers in that package, but tell us a little bit about how maybe their relationship with their children has possibly changed as a result of attending Fathers Forever, Glen.
We encourage guys, our client participants, not just to pay the child support, but also to spend time with the kids. And we've had reports of several guys who are beginning to say, I'm taking more of initiatives now to spend time with my kids and to build a relationship. Sometimes with the mom, the friction is there, and they can't really see the kid like they want to. So now they're beginning to go through the necessary things that they need to do to begin to establish that relationship, not only with their child, but with the child's mom, because sometimes that can be a hindrance. So we're encouraging them to do both. And we're getting some results. We're getting some positive results that our guys are saying, because of our program, they are beginning to be determined to see their kids more. Or be the purpose in their day-to-day to contact the kids. We encourage them. There's too many communications now, phone, text, email. If you can't see your child every day, you can call them. You can text them, you can email them. And there's all kinds of ways you can communicate with your child. And those are the things that we're encouraging our fathers to do. And I see a very positive outcome.
Now, the men we met in the package have a very specific profile. They've come to your program from the court system. And Vince, you have had the opportunity to witness a lot of this activity in your court. Tell us about the statistics that might exist out there with regard to the number of fathers out there who are being brought through the court system for not being in their children's lives or not paying child support, and what you're seeing in your courtroom.
Thank you. One of the ways that we actually are able to recommend or order fathers to attend the Fathers Forever program is if they are not in compliance with paying their child support. It's not that they come in and we say, you're not doing a good job of being a dad, you need help. For the vast majority of people who are out there who are under a child support order, they are actually paying their child support, 95% actually. And so whenever you start talking about the 5% of, in Wake County, 22,000 cases that we have, that's whenever we have issues with people who are not being compliant. And once they go through different programs, there's a vast separation or distinction between someone who has had problems and hasn't gone into a program and then someone who has gone through a program like Fathers Forever. Actually, we see the money that comes back to the mom or whoever the person is that's taking custody of the child, just like Glen used to. The income actually doubles whenever you have someone go through a program and they realize that something can be done differently. And Glen's doing a great job with Fathers Forever of making that happen.
How does that income double? How does that happen?
Well, because we help them find a job. Well, we're not a job agency, but we encourage them and connect. So that's one thing. The other thing is when they start to spend time, it's like the more time I spend with my kid, the more I kind of like my kid. I like doing this. And when you start to do that, you know, money starts to come. You start to purpose in your day, instead of buying a pair of sneakers, I'm going to pay my child support. Instead of buying this nice phone, I'm going to pay my child support. So those kind of things make them guys begin to realize that my child is just as important as other issues.
And maybe I should clarify, in income, I mean the regularity with which they make their payments. Whenever they come into the courtroom, they're usually there. They get to see a judge under a child support order because there's been some lack of compliance with the order. The order says if you make minimum wage, the order may say $233. Sometimes they may pay it, sometimes they may not. Sometimes it may be $50, sometimes it may be the full amount. What we want to have is people who are paying consistently and meeting their full obligation. And if they're behind, making sure that they make up for what they've missed. And that is the way that we're able to say, okay, instead of sending you to jail, we're going to give you another alternative. We'll give you the opportunity to go to the Fathers Forever program, and we'll see what happens. You have a prior record, they can help you. And then some of the other factors that may come into play with all that they can provide.
So there is compassion and understanding within the court system for these fathers?
At times.
When need be, perhaps. Another question I had dealt with your comment about how many men are paying their child support and how few are not paying their child support. There are a lot of men out there who are paying their child support and living up to that financial obligation. For those men who are not, what's going on? Why? Are they deadbeat dads?
Well, there's the thing about deadbeat dads, and I say this a lot, and dead broke dads. And there's a vast difference. Deadbeat fathers' dads could be rich. You don't have to be a lack of money. A deadbeat dad is somebody who have the time and the money to spend time with their kids that choose not to. A dead broke dad, he just broke. He don't have any money. He can't find a job because of criminal record. He don't have his GED. There's a lot of barriers that they have to keep them from getting a job or maintaining a job and to pay their child support. So now they're dead broke and they don't have the money. Or they can't afford a lawyer to represent them when they go before the court. And the intimidation of going to court, standing before a judge, is intimidating. So, and because they don't have a lawyer, they just kind of, I don't want to go to court today. And they end up being contempt. And they end up going to jail. And the cycle kind of repeats itself. So, in my opinion, a lot of our guys are not deadbeat dads. They just don't have any money. And some of that choices on their own, they made some bad choices. And I try to get them to understand the difference between a bad mistake and a bad choice. A mistake is I accidentally stepped on your toe. A choice is a decision. I made a bad decision. So let's own up to that. And how can we help you make good decisions now and take some responsibility where you are, and we can help you to get the things that you need to be a better dad.
And those are the times where the court has the opportunity to have compassion, to try to understand what the history is in this particular case. When there are decisions that are made repeatedly, then there may be one alternative. But whenever there are some mistakes that have been made, then we recognize that Fathers Forever or some other alternative may be the most appropriate way of going about with this particular case. Legally, our goal by the law is to try to make sure that we can make sure that people come into compliance with whatever the order is. But there oftentimes can be some great consequences that come about, or great rewards, I should say, that come about from them being in compliance with the order.
Now, how is it determined how much child support will be given? Because I've heard the complaint that, listen, I don't have enough money to make a child support payment, and what's being asked of me is just, impossible.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah. So
what we do, and the way there are guidelines that we have or a worksheet that we use, and district court judges across the state get together to try to figure out how to adjust the guidelines every 3 years. But what the guidelines take into consideration would be the income of both parents, any other obligations that they may have as far as child support is concerned, work-related child care expenses, health care, extraordinary expenses if the child has some sort of special gift, or even if that child has a particular disability. At times, we also look at as far as how many children may be under this order. And so at that point in time, after we've received all the information, we plug it in, and then we'll try to, well, we don't try. It comes back to us using the formulas. And that is the way that we try to be fair across the board based on income and based on circumstances. After all of that, if it's not enough, we can try to look at the needs of a child. If it's too much, then we can try to look at the needs of the person that has to pay it and whether or not it's reasonable and under their circumstances.
Another thing I hear out there is, well, I want to make sure my money is getting to the children. How often is it that there's a woman involved who's misusing these funds?
Yeah, and that's true. That happens. That happens. There are some women out there who, but for the most part, my own personal opinion, and we have a class like this called Where My Money Is Going, and we actually sit down and role play, because the money that she's getting to for your kids is not going to take care of her hair or get her nails done. In my case, it was going to pay the bills. They paid the light bill and the phone bill and the gas bill and the water bill. And we did a scenario where we created this. And guys, at the end of this scenario, they saw she don't have any money left. There's not enough money left for her to be doing her nails. And so she's, those bills are, those money, allocated are coming to pay the bills. Now, like I said, there are some women out there who's taking advantage of that and, taking the kids and taking them to grandma's house, and they're getting the check, and grandma's not getting, the check to take care of the kids. They are running the streets. I mean, trust me, they're out there. But
is there any way to track that kind of thing?
Well, I don't know that is. There probably is possible, but I don't know who would track it and what kind of account you would get. But there are some cases out there where the grandma is taking care of. Even in our guys, sometimes it's saying the child is living with me, but she's getting the child support. She has dropped the ball, and the child is left unattended. So the child comes live with the father, but he has to pay child support to her, even though he has a kid. And some of those times, we try to encourage the guys to go to the court system and find out what you need to fix that and get that right.
So
but
it can get very
cases,
complicated.
It's very complicated, and it can be intimidating.
But the money that in North Carolina, when child support is collected, that money goes to.
It goes to centralized collections if it's under a standard order, but dollar for dollar, that money goes to the mother. If the mother is the person that has custody, or if it's a father who has custody, dollar for dollar, that amount goes to the mother or to the person who has custody. Now, we do try to encourage, just like Glenn said, whenever someone feels as though there's something that's blatantly unfair going on, the father now has custody of the child, we do encourage them that there is an option of going and filling out a modification. I recently had a case where the mother works pretty much during the day, then she goes to school in the evenings. Actually, it was 2 cases. And the father was taking care of the child pretty much most of the day and then into the evening. And so by the time the child actually was back with the mother, it was 10 o'clock at night. This is a young child. I believe both situations was where the child was under 6 years old. And so the child's pretty much just waking up with mom and going to bed with mom, but the rest of the day is with dad. Those dads aren't paying child support now because that wouldn't be fair.
We've been talking a lot about money and dollars and cents, but how often is it there's the mother who's standing in the way of a dad spending time with his child just because she wants to hold that against him?
It's a lot. When I do try to talk to the mom, I use an analogy. I grew up in the country. And my dad and mom, they discipline us and they get a switch and they would beat us. But eventually,
I know about the switch.
The switch, the bell.
I only heard of it.
One time, but eventually the switch breaks. And the point is, when you use little Jimmy to beat Big Jimmy, it's little Jimmy who's going to break. That's who you're hurting. You're hurting the child. You're not hurting him. I know you're mad with him because he ran off with your ex-girlfriend and all that stuff. But now you got to think about. He's trying to take care of his child. Why should I stand